Yo, this is Antoine with another episode of Out and Up, where we encourage young athletes to achieve their very best outside of the game. And like every show, we're blessed to have another awesome guest, and y'all know how I do. I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bailey Jackson of Bailey Jackson Sports, and I am a sports content creator / sports reporter operating on digital platforms. You can find me anywhere on social media.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson, for joining us. We appreciate you being with us. Are you ready to get into the questions?
I'm ready. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I always like to start pretty much the same way most shows, just to let people know, our guest background when it comes to sports. Let's talk a little bit before we get into what you do today. Let's talk a little bit about just your experience in sports growing up. Let's go to the beginning. How did you get involved in sports?
Yeah, from a young age, my parents always made sure that I was doing something. So I think first thing I did was dance or gymnastics, and then entered me into basketball, soccer, t-ball, played volleyball for a while. Basketball became my main sport up until I was about 13, and I started taking golf very seriously. And then I took lessons, started becoming a little bit better with the clubs and on the course, and started playing competitively, and that was my sport till college. So yeah, that's kind of my experience playing, and then of course my experience on the reporting side started a little later on in life.
All right. So golf ended up being the sport that you say you played. Did you play it into college?
I played it up until my freshman year of college.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then what was it? Just a decision to kind of fall away from sports? What was the transition from, playing sports early in youth on through high school again and going into college playing golf? What was kind of the decision to kind of stop playing?
Yeah, for me, I think it was a number of things. Going into school, I didn't know, or I guess going into college, I went to Indiana University, didn't know what to expect. It was a huge transition for me, coming from a smaller high school to a very, very big college. So I wanted to give myself a chance to adapt to that setting, and just really deep dive into the academic side of school. So gave, sports a break, at least at a competitive level, for a little bit to just focus on that. And then part of it too is just the love of the sport. Golf is a very mental game, and you really have to be 100% in it if you're going to perform at the highest level. And for me, I just after a while, I just didn't have that, I guess, the same drive that I grew up having for the sport. So I needed to find that love and that passion again. So it just made sense for me to take a step back at that point.
All right. So you talked about playing several sports. I will ask today, do you dabble in any sports today just for fun?
Golf, that's the only one, honestly. I still have my clubs. I still go out pretty frequently. I try to golf at least once or twice a month. So yeah, that's my main sport. I'll run. I love getting out outdoors and running on the treadmill, just doing like a nice little long distance run. But other than that, that's about it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And so you just stated you ended up going to Indiana University, you said, correct?
Yep.
Let's go back to the beginning. Like, where were you originally born and raised? And just let's talk about, like, was sports real competitive in that area you were born and raised in?
I grew up in a suburb of Indianapolis called Carmel. Born and raised there, lived there up until I went to IU. In terms of the competitive nature, very, very competitive when it comes to sports there. The thing about Carmel is it's a pretty decent sized city. It's a city of about, I think, close to 100,000 now, and there's one high school. So that high school is the largest in the state of Indiana, with a total student population of about 5,000 kids.
Wow.
So you can imagine, with a city that large, high school that big, there's a lot of talent coming in and out of, those school systems. So, competing in the, Carmel area, whether it was, elementary school, middle school, high school, it was very, very competitive. And that was a huge decision for me in terms of choosing what high school I went to. So I actually opted out of going to the public high school in Carmel and went to a small private Catholic school in Indianapolis. Partially because of sports, I wanted a better opportunity to be on the varsity team for golf. So it worked in my favor. I ended up playing the #1 position on our varsity team all 4 years. And I don't think I would have been able to do that at Carmel. Probably would have been a lot harder to start at that position and, eventually work my way up. But to answer your question, yeah, very, very competitive here.
All right, all right. So we won't go back before high school, but in high school, what were some of your most memorable moments in sports?
Oh, most memorable moments. Gosh, we would have a few tournaments before school started. Golf season here is in the fall for girls golf, and we would normally kick off in July. So it'd be the first, or I guess last couple weeks of July, right before school. And with the varsity team, you take five players. And so it's always a close and tight knit group of us, and we would have tournaments that would be all over the state. So I just remember those bus rides being some of my favorite memories, just listening to music, on the way there, coming back, we're all passed out asleep, just finished on the course, long hot day. Those were always really good memories. In terms of my own playing experience, at my high school, we went to state for football for 1 year. So that was really cool seeing that. I think that was the first time in history that they made it there, being played at the Lucas Oil Stadium where the Colts play. So that was really cool
Awesome.
too.
Awesome.
But yeah, so those are a few fun memories from high school.
That's good. That's good. So
Yeah.
I know you can't give us many lessons in an interview, but for the young person that's looking at golf and want to take a shot at learning the sport, what are some things you did growing up or even growing into the sport to really get better at the game? What are some things that, for people that don't know a lot about golf, what are some things that you can do to help you get better at the game?
Yeah. I would say if you have the means to get a swing coach, that's what really transformed my game. I started getting lessons a few years into playing competitively, and my score dropped almost 10 strokes after just a month or two of lessons. I'd also say if you can get a nice set of clubs that are fit for you, that will also transform your game. So at the end of the day, it really just comes down to practice. Golf is one of those games where you just have to consistently get out there and get better and, try and fail and see what works for you and see what doesn't. So it's really just a matter of staying consistent. But like I said, on top of that, a swing coach is great, and a nice set of clubs will definitely help your game.
All right. I want to ask, what is the most difficult thing to pick up with golf? Would it be the hand-eye coordination part of it? I know I never played golf, but I know I played baseball, and people have heard me joke about it several times on the show. But I just could not get that thing with taking that bat and making contact with the ball. Would it be the same thing with golf? Is that one of the hardest things to get used to in golf?
Honestly, no. In my opinion, I think hitting straight is going to be the biggest challenge.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what most people, even if you're a beginner to a pro, hitting straight is always going to be a challenge. There's so many things in your swing that could affect the trajectory of the ball. So, or I guess the direction of the ball. So it really just comes down to that. I think short game too is a big thing when it comes to like the challenges. Is a lot of people don't realize that a lot of the strokes come from putting, come from chipping. And what's crazy to me is, a drive off the tee could be 200-300 yards, and it's still going to count just as much as that, 6-inch putt that, may be right next to the pin. So those two things are definitely the most difficult when it comes down to golf. It's hitting the ball straight and making sure your short game is on point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So many sports, and I don't even want to start naming them. There are things that you have to do during the off season to prepare. And I just want to ask, is any of these things necessary with sports? Conditioning and weight training, like, are some of those things, do they ever play a part in golf?
That was never anything that I did when I played
Right.
competitively. I'd be interested to see if programs nowadays do more of that. I know at a collegiate level, IU specifically, they would weight train, they would do morning yoga. So a lot of it is like core stability. But in terms of like just the athleticness of the sport, it's not anything you have to be super fit to do.
Okay.
Like basketball, football, baseball, track, those really athletic sports, you really do have to put a lot of, hours training, going, to the gym. Golf is just, it's not that game. You see some of the guys on the tour, they're, kind of bigger. You don't have to be super lean. You don't have to be super buff either. You can walk out and play an amazing round with a beer belly, and you're still
Okay.
gonna be great. So like, yeah, it's really it's not anything you really have to condition for, but I know people are moving in the direction of incorporating it, at least at a collegiate level, into their programs. So like I said, it'd be interesting to see what that looks like at the high school level.
All right. I
Yeah.
always like to ask the those that are currently playing or formerly played, like, did you watch the game a lot, or were you just someone that enjoyed playing it? Did you really study the game and watch some of the pro golfers or even, you know, collegiate golfers, as you were coming up and learning the sport? Were you a student of the game?
Yeah, I love watching golf. If I had the opportunity, I would like to go to the tournaments in person. So there were a few chances or opportunities that I had. They came to Carmel. There's a course here called Crooked Stick, and every, I think, like 8 or so years, the BMW Championship, which is a kind of mid-size tournament for the PGA, comes to Crooked Stick, and I had the chance to go there a couple years, check it out, and see it from my own eyes. Love watching on TV. There's matches pretty much every single weekend, starting Thursday through Sunday. So any chance I could get to watch golf, I would watch it. And I feel like that's very an unpopular opinion, and most people hate watching golf. It is a slow game and it's very repetitive. You're just seeing, basically the same shots over and over again. But I find it fascinating. I love it. I love following certain golfers. Roy McIlroy is one of my favorites. Um,
Awesome.
so just seeing him on the course every weekend is fun for me. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we'll talk about let's get into just the transition and kind of preparing to go to college. Did the fact that you were playing golf have a big part to play? I know in choosing the high school that you went to, you said that you consider, just being able to play, the sport. But as you began to get ready to go to college, the fact that you were playing golf have a part to play in your decision and preparing for what school you were going to go to?
yeah, definitely. I was getting offers from D2, D3 schools, and they were appealing to me, but the business programs weren't necessarily what I wanted them to be. And that's what I was going to school for, was a marketing degree. So that was the challenge for me, is like, okay, I really want a strong business program, a strong marketing program. And the schools that I was getting offers from just didn't have what I was looking for. So when it came to choosing IU, it was either a matter of, okay, do I, walk on as a golfer there and, get the great business school that I'm looking for, or, get the scholarship, a full ride scholarship at a smaller school, and, maybe not get the, academic experience that I want. So it was a very big decision for me. Ultimately, like I said, chose IU. So, yeah.
All right. So I always like to ask, for those young people watching the show, like, what would you advise a young person, student athlete, any sport? What are some things they should look at when deciding what school they're going to continue their careers in, as a student athlete?
Yeah. It's wherever you feel most comfortable at, honestly. College is such a huge transition. And for some people it's easier, for some people it's harder. And I think if you know right off the bat, it's like, this place really feels like home, then it's going to make that process so much easier for that person. When it comes to, athletic programs and academic programs, make sure that the athletic program supports the student side of being a student athlete. You have some programs that really want to hone in on, you're an athlete, that comes first. And then you have some programs that are just like, well, no, it's student athlete, the student comes first. So making sure that whatever school you're at, the priorities are straight, for that program, on both sides. Outside of that, gosh, I would say honestly, get out of your comfort zone and go somewhere far. That's another thing too. That's the one thing I wish I would have done in hindsight. I mean, like I said, I grew up in Carmel, Indiana, went to Indiana University. It's only an hour and a half away. I wish I would have gotten out of my comfort zone and traveled somewhere new, went to the East Coast, West Coast, down South, something different. College is such a fun time to explore who you are, what you like, where you want to go. So I would highly encourage people who are, in that process of, that college decision process to, maybe look at a few options that kind of scare you a little bit, that kind of get you nervous, get you thinking. But those opportunities, honestly, are some of the best ones.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you said those were things you may have looked at doing a little different as far as getting away, but what was your experience like at IU?
Yeah, it was really good. It took me a while to get adjusted. I'm not gonna lie. At first I didn't love it. And I think a lot of that just came from coming from a smaller school, to a very big university. It was a huge adjustment for me. It took me probably a good year to really figure out what I wanted out of IU, find my friend group. That was a huge thing, as well as just having that support system on campus. And also really understanding like why I'm there. I came in as a business student, hadn't fully declared a major yet. I knew I either wanted to do something like entrepreneurship, corporate innovation, or marketing wise. And then all of that switched and I decided, no, I want to go into sports reporting. So, that was another thing too, is like, it took me a while to figure that out. But once I did, it made the experience so much better. It's like, I finally figured out, it's like, okay, this is the direction I want to go in, and navigating, the resources at IU and what that could look like for me at the university, especially being a Big Ten school, in a really good competitive conference, with, all the major teams. It was a very, very cool experience.
That's good. That's good. You touched on something that I've had so many guests kind of touch on, and just kind of encouraging the young athlete, because so many athletes go into college not really having a firm foundation on what direction they want to go as far as major. And so I've had so many guests say, hey, I started in this direction and I had to, I made some changes that, and for some that can be discouraging, like not knowing exactly what major direction they want to go in. And so you kind of touched it. You had to kind of make some changes, but you found, your heart and where you wanted to go into as far as journalism and everything. And so I want to touch on that. At what point, whether it's in college or later on in college, at what point do you kind of just start to begin to have the desire to do what you're doing today, from the journalism, reporting, and sports content creator? Like, at what point do you really start to begin to grow that love for what you're doing?
Yeah. So it was the summer after my freshman year. Like I said, I was in the business school. I did graduate with my marketing degree. So I did end up kind of going through that entire business track. But it was at that moment where I realized, it's like, okay, like I like it, but I don't love it. Right. So I was working an internship with a pharmaceutical company here in Indianapolis. And it was a fun job. And I was like, I feel like there's something that's more exciting out there, right? I had a friend of mine, it was a family friend. Our parents worked together, and I was looking at her Instagram, and she was also at IU. She was a few years older than me, so I think she was maybe a senior at the time. And she was doing some sideline reporting for an organization here called Prep All Stars. And I was like, oh, wow, this looks really cool. Like, she looks like she's having a lot of fun. And I don't know what prompted me to do this, but I reached out to them and I was like, hi, like, I saw so-and-so do this. Like, I would love to talk to you about it. And that turned into a meeting. That meeting turned into setting up my first interview with an athlete, high school athlete that now plays at IU, coincidentally, CJ Gunn. He's a sophomore at IU, plays basketball. Yeah, it was a very crazy experience, kind of getting into it, and just one thing led to the next. And after doing those first few interviews with Prep All Stars, came back to IU, and I was like, okay, well, I've found out that I love doing this. I was like, this is really fun. I like that it was exciting. I like that it was kind of a fast-paced environment, that every day was basically going to look different. You could be covering basketball one day, football the next. You're talking to a whole slew of people and hearing all these different stories. So it was like, fell in love with every aspect of that. Came back to IU, was like, okay, well, I'm at one of the best athletic programs in the nation, in a great conference. I was like, I know there's an opportunity out here for me, at the university. Managed to get in contact with a person in the athletic department who pointed me to the media school, and I got involved with the Big Ten Student Network there. And I started covering wrestling matches. So I was the sideline reporter for wrestling. Yeah, and I knew nothing about wrestling. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but basically just started like going to practices, meeting with the coaches, meeting with the players to prepare for commentating on the days that they had matches. And yeah, it's just from there, it's just opportunity after opportunity kept coming. And it's led me to the point where I'm at now, in terms of getting started on social media. It kind of was out of the blue, and I can get to that later. I can get into that now. Right. It's completely up to you how you want to get into that, because that's a very lengthy story. But yeah, that's a little bit about how I got into the whole sports reporting, sports world in general. So
So I definitely want to kind of transition and go there, but I will ask you, how difficult was it to report on a sport like wrestling when you didn't know much about it? Was it hard to learn a lot of the verbiage and things that you need to report on? Was that
absolutely
difficult?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was it was tough. I had no clue what I was talking about. If you go back and look at that B-roll, which I hope nobody has that B-roll, you can tell I didn't know what I was talking about. I was also so nervous too, because that was the first time I'd ever been in front of such a large crowd. And then on top of that, being televised on, whatever it was being televised at the time, I had no clue. But yeah, it was not great. But at the same time, it's a huge part of being a sports reporter is you have to be able to adapt to different assignments. You may be asked to cover something you have no clue what you're talking about, but that's how you're going to get better, right? Is if you can be adaptable, if you can overcome that adversity, and at the end of the day, if you pick up a trade or some knowledge in a sport you don't know, then who knows, you may continue getting those opportunities and you may become the best at it. So yeah, it was interesting to say the least. It was really interesting, but nonetheless, I enjoyed it. So it was a good opportunity.
All right. So we're about to get into how Miss Jackson got into starting her platform that she has now. I want her to go ahead and tell that story. But I just want to pause this 1 minute just to say the reason for all our guests are always that you let our young athlete, no matter what sport you're playing, no matter what the various areas you may come from, to see a person who plays sports, sports was a large part of her life growing up, and went on to play golf even into college. But she's gone on to find something that she's passionate about today, and doing what she does as far as the sports content and being a journalist and a reporter. And so I just always want our young people to see the different examples of how people go on to do awesome things in life. Like, I think my heart and passion with Out and Up was just so many young people who may not even make it past the high school level. And then it's like sports has been part of your life since you were 5 years old. And then, don't know what to do with life afterwards. And so just seeing so many people that go on to find other career fields. And so I just always want our young people to see the awesome examples that we have on the show and start planning. Start planning as you're growing through high school. What are some other things I would love to do? What are some other things I'm passionate about? So Miss Bailey Jackson just gives us another awesome example of someone that's doing an awesome thing and what she's doing in journalism. So I want you to go ahead and tell us how and where did it all come about, as far as like what motivated you to start your platform?
Yeah. So like I said, it's a crazy story. I graduated from IU last year. Upon graduation, I had a job lined up with Oracle in a marketing rotational program. Um, I started that position in June, so it's been a full year now. And by August 1st, I was in Austin at headquarters, met my manager in person for the first time. I was looking to move down there. I was with my mom looking for apartments. Next thing I know, all of us in the rotational program are getting the same message from a random VP asking to set up a phone call. And we all learned that our program basically just got wiped. Yeah, so it was massive layoffs. I think thousands of people across the company, across the world that worked for Oracle were laid off that day. And it was a insane experience. Coming out of school, I fully expected that I would be the one to leave Oracle, not Oracle being the one to leave me.
Okay.
And then, it'd be my decision to walk away from that job. And definitely not as soon as, 6 weeks into the rotation. And I was left feeling confused, a little scared, it's like, what do I do next? And sports has just always been a passion of mine, and sports reporting throughout, college. So I knew I wanted to do something with that eventually. It was just a matter of when. And I saw that as the perfect opportunity to say, let's do it now. And it's, full send, let's just do it now. I don't have anything else I'm doing. It's like I had so much free time on my hands looking for, new jobs. So I had an existing Instagram page. I already had a TikTok account. So I just changed the name to Bailey Jackson Sports, came up with a little slogan and started my, video journey, made my first video, and took off from there. So
that's good. That's good. And so I want to ask, do you try to have something different than what's already out there? Like what are the goals of your platform?
Yeah. Yes and no. I want to be the person you go to for all of your sports news. If there's breaking news out there, I want you to hear it through me, right? And that's news that you'll see on other platforms as well. So there will be some overlap, but at the same time, I also focus on highlighting stories that you don't hear. And that's the majority of what my content is highlighting those human stories that often go unnoticed. And that's a huge part of my platform as well, is not taking an analytical approach to things. I've done that for the majority of my sports reporting career, is, looking at a game from an analytical level, doing sideline reporting, doing play-by-play. And I enjoy that, but I enjoy storytelling. I enjoy narratives way more than I enjoy breaking down the game or, looking at stats. So because I've take that approach, and that's an approach you typically don't see in mainstream media. You're not going to see those stories on ESPN. You may see them on a 30 for 30 or an Outside the Lines, but then again, those are pretty infrequent shows. They're not putting content out every single day. So you're making sure I capture those stories as they come and share that with my platform is huge for me.
All right. So let's get into a little bit when it comes to some of our stories we continue to see. And it connects directly to my heart and passion and what kind of birthed the idea to kind of start my platform. Just seeing so many young people. I can remember I had a long career, 15-year career in law enforcement, mainly in detention. So often I would have young people, they call us by our last name, say, Rogers, my man over there, he was the best running back in our high school growing up, but somehow got sidetracked by life in their cities. And whether it was here in North Carolina or in South Carolina, or even knowing back home in New Jersey, different stories where people did awesome jobs from Little League, Pop Warner, AU, on through high school, but then found themselves in trouble. I want to ask you, from your view as a reporter and journalist, do you think a lot of the issues we see, and we're seeing it go on right now? Probably one of the biggest I would feel NBA stories is the Ja Morant situation. But do you feel like a lot of what we see with young athletes getting in trouble in college and on into pros, is it more not being able to handle the platform that they're on, or is it a lot more really their troubled youth that they did not address and deal with before being introduced to these platforms?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the individual, honestly. And you brought up a great point, Ja Morant. If you look at his background, he was raised, in a not your traditional environment that you would typically see, someone who exhibits his behavior,
Right.
being raised in. He had a great upbringing from what we know.
Right.
And, yet this is the direction that, his, I guess name, image and likeness is, gone towards, is, being known for this NBA player that, totes the gun around and, is getting in trouble and, all of this, all of these negative stories that are associated to his name. So, for him, it's not necessarily like a thing tied to his upbringing, his environment, or at least his, childhood environment or prior to, the NBA. I think for him, it is a matter of, platform. It's just he's 23 now. He's still a very young guy.
Right.
Who's making a lot of money, and
Right.
he has a lot of people around him that are probably trying to get in his circle, and may not be the best influences in that moment. And I think a lot of that just comes with the platform he has. Is he's just carrying this immense weight. And I know other NBA players have spoken out about being in similar positions. Jalen Rose came out and said something very similar to happen to him early on in his career. So yeah, like I said, I think for the case of Ja Morant, and there are a lot of other Ja Morants out there, it's just a matter of platform. And there are a lot of other athletes out there where it's a matter of upbringing and maybe not having the support system or the proper environment to condition them for these moments where they may be faced with challenges. So it's really a case by case thing, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. What is your opinion or your view in regards to collegiate programs as well as pro level? Do you think these programs do a good job with player development?
Yeah. I guess when you say player development, are we talking about from like an athletic standpoint, or are we talking about like the full process?
Spectrum? Because again,
Okay.
my platform is focused on, I want to see people play at the highest level.
Sure.
But I believe when we fail to know that even no matter how athletically gifted a lot of these young people are, there are things that they've carried from their childhood. Whether it's mental health, whether it's just trauma that they faced or struggles throughout their life. So do you think these programs focus on the full person when it comes to development?
I think some programs do. Some programs don't. Some programs do it better than others. Ohio State, for example, and I may be a little bit biased. I'm a huge Ohio State fan, but they do a really good job at helping their football players out. And I think honestly, all of their athletic teams out on a variety of ends. You hit on mental health. Coach Ryan Day has been very, very big on having a mental health facility on campus for those athletes to go to. That's a huge thing that we're just now talking about, right? Is athletes and mental health, and making sure that everything's good up here so you can perform well on the field, on the court,
right,
wherever it may be. So like I said, Ohio State's a really good example of that. I don't know if those programs exist for other schools. I'm sure they do in some capacity. Like I said, I think some programs do it better than others, and I'm sure some programs don't have it. It also comes down to a matter of funding. So, and like I said, that's just from the mental health standpoint. I think now with the age of NIL, being huge, from a financial literacy point, you're starting to see more programs, really cater to that and make sure that their athletes are educated and informed. I think from personal growth and development, you definitely have those programs that hit on, hey, we're going to give you, these self-discovery, classes, and you're going to get counseling and, someone to talk to, some type of, mentor, leadership figure that you're going to meet with one-on-one. I've seen that at IU. I know other programs do that as well. So I think there are organizations that do take a holistic approach when it comes to these student athletes. It really just depends on where those universities are. Funding, like I said, is a huge thing. Does the school have the means to provide that holistic approach for those athletes? Some do, some don't. Some just, like I said, do it better than others. So
okay. All right. And you brought up something wasn't even on my mind necessarily covered today, but you said those letters, NIL.
Mm-hmm.
What is your view? What do you think are some of the pros and cons? Me personally, I think it's awesome because we know these programs make a lot of money off of student athletes. But there are some cons to it. And I just want to know what are your views from your standpoint as far as the good and bads with NIL?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great that athletes are getting paid. They deserve to be making money off of, themselves. It's their brand at the end of the day, and they're bringing exposure to the schools and their teams, and that funnels into ticket sales, and that funnels into a whole slew of other financial aspects within the university and the athletic programs. So I think it's great that they're getting a cut of the profits. Like you said, it does affect a lot too. We saw the whole transfer portal situation with Colorado and Deion Sanders, and how everyone thinks like NIL is affecting that. And I think we will continue to see a lot of people bouncing around with collectives coming together and offering these big amounts of money to kids to come to a program. I know a friend of mine plays basketball at University of Miami, and he was offered almost, I think, close to $1 million to go play there, as opposed to choosing another school. Same situation for a kid in Florida. He it was either UF or FSU, one of the two. I think maybe Miami was also thrown into the mix. There were these collectives were coming at him with all of this money, talking about you should go here, you should go here, you should go here. It really is affecting I guess I don't even know, like, if you call it fairness, of the process, of the recruiting process. I don't know. It'll be interesting. We're still so new to
Very new, very new.
NIL deals, and how it will play out long term. So I think give it maybe another 2 to 3 years, and there'll probably be a whole new list of issues that we're attributing to NIL and the effects of NIL. So it's interesting.
I believe they'll find a way to fine tune it. Like you said, it is very new, very fresh. I do think it was a step in a good direction, something that needed to be. I used to be a gamer, not a gamer anymore like that, but I know I was upset when they kind of got rid of the whole, a lot of the NCAA sports when it came to video games. But, I know they're trying to move back in that direction. I don't think everybody is happy with what they're trying to compensate people with right up front. Because again, it is a big money maker. So I think slowly they'll find ways to fine tune everything. I believe there were good intentions, or at least an open door to consider that the student athlete themselves were not being considered in the big scheme of things. So like you said, I think they'll find ways to fine tune things, but we're moving in a good direction. It's good. I think my big concern again always will be just making sure those that are in the circle of these young athletes, that you're preparing them, because now you're not having to wait until you go into pro sports. You're able to accomplish some financial goals at a younger age. Quick question. Do you believe that may help with keeping some athletes in school a little bit longer.
Oh,
What do you
absolutely.
feel about that?
Absolutely. I know Angel Reese and Flaudry Johnson, they talked about this a little bit on the Breakfast Club about a month or two ago. And they were very quick to say, oh, we're not ready to leave. Like there's no rush to leave. And I think it is a little different for women's basketball, where they do have to stay either the course of the 4 years until they turn 22 in order to be eligible for the WNBA. That's not to say they could always, go overseas if they wanted to. But yeah, they said, hey, we're not in the rush to go to the W. We're making great money here at LSU.
Right.
They just came off a championship win. They're, two of the biggest names in women's basketball right now. I wouldn't be in a rush to leave either if I was making the money that they're making. I know Angel just signed a deal with Mercedes. She's, driving a Benz. She's,
Wow.
making probably, I think, over $1 million at this point, if the numbers are right that I'm thinking of. Yeah, why leave? Why leave if you're making that money? And especially if we're talking about women's basketball in particular, going to the W, where the rookie contract is barely over $70,000. Not to say that they may get endorsements or brand deals, but I mean, $70,000, you could come out of school, without playing basketball and being a superstar and make that much money, if not more, with a corporate job. It's like, okay, well, what's the W doing to, make it appeal to these athletes? So, like I said, in the case of her specifically, women's basketball specifically, absolutely not. I think the same goes for pretty much any other sport too. It's like, if you're making the same money that you could be making at a pro level, why be quick to jump ship and go play pro if you can continue, being a college star and getting all the perks of being in school as well? As the thing too, is like, you're not paying for housing, you're probably not paying for food either, and you're making all that money, as opposed to going pro. Then you have to pay for a house or apartment, you're paying to, support yourself in food and bills and all of that. So stay. Stay.
I think it's awesome that you touch on that. I do hope that helps to kind of steer more young athletes to completing their education, because it will be in accomplishing those goals of finishing their education that will have the long-term effects and helping them and giving them something, even once they're finished with the sport, something else to fall back on. So I hope that the NIL will help in that area. I hope they'll work out all the other kinks when it comes to the financial part and really getting these young athletes the training and the teaching and the education they need on how to manage their money. So it's not getting more in trouble, but hopefully they'll spend more time in school, educate themselves, and know how to manage their money. So I thank you for kind of touching on that subject with me. And so we're getting close to wrapping it up, but I just want to ask a few more questions. One, for the young student athlete, just your experience from the moment that the period that you played in college to even other people that you saw that were student athletes. What are some things they need to do to really focus on a high level when they're going into, being a student athlete on the collegiate level? What are some things to help the young athlete kind of stay focused? What are some things they need to work on?
Yeah, time management's huge. And I think that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day, is you're gonna have a million things that are being thrown at you, from the athletic schedule to the academic schedule, to a social schedule, things that you just need to get done, maybe in your dorm or your apartment, or, wherever you're staying on campus. And it's a lot. You're going to have early days, you're going to have late nights, and it's really just about how well you manage your time. And that's going to determine how successful you are. You have some people that are going to spend half of their day in the gym perfecting their craft. You have half of their day maybe in the classroom doing homework, in the library, whatever it may be. Maybe they don't have any type of social interaction that day. But then you also have the people that are going to go out and party, and then they're going to show up to practice late, and then they're not going to get their homework done. And so it's like you have to figure out what you're going to prioritize, and then figure out where that fits in your day.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I want to ask, for those watching, if Miss Bailey Jackson doesn't mind opening the door a little bit, outside of reporting, I know you have to spend a lot of time in what you do, really just getting stories and getting information. What is it that Miss Bailey Jackson likes to do outside of work?
When I do get free time, I love to travel. I really do. That's probably my favorite thing to do. Um, Spending time with friends and family is always important to me. Any chance that I get, I will try to call a friend, call a family member, see how they're doing, see if they want to hang out. Love trying new restaurants. That's a huge point of excitement in my week. Just meeting up with a friend, going to try something new to eat. I'm very adventurous when it comes to food. So yeah, it's just really a matter of free time. I don't feel like I have a lot of free time nowadays, but when I do, those are the few things that I really enjoy.
Great, great. And so I want to ask, what's next for Bailey Jackson Sports? Are you looking to continue to grow your platform, or ultimate goals? Are you looking to kind of link up with some of our bigger outlets? What's Bailey Jackson's goals?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. It comes at a very interesting time for me too. I'm at a point where my platform is growing, and it's can either go in two different directions, where I could really stick to the media side of things that I've been consistent with, up until this point, or I could kind of take this influencer route, and I'm kind of getting offers to go both ways. And I call myself a sports content creator, so that puts me right in the middle, right? It's like I can either follow that, creator influencer route, or I could kind of more shift towards just being the sports content creator media.
Right.
So I'm really trying to figure it out. There's a lot of opportunity on both ends, with being that traditional creator. There's those brand deals, and those opportunities, and I, like I said, have gotten those opportunities. People are coming knocking on my door, so it's an exciting world to explore. And same goes with the traditional media route. Have a few offers to collaborate with some really big names. So we'll see. It's really a matter of time. I will say that you can look for on my platform an interview series that will be coming up fairly soon. I believe we're going to start filming in the next month. So I'll be sitting down with some big name athletes, talking about their lives, and just really diving deep into who they are off the field, off the court, and looking at them not as an athlete, honestly, and more just as a person,
Okay.
really understanding who they are. So that is in the works. Like I said, you can look for that. It'll be on my platform. So I'm really excited about that.
That's good. That's good. Go ahead. For those that make sure you give them all your outlets so they'll know where to find you. I know you're on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Just give them, let them know how they can find you.
Yep. So you named all of them: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Bailey Jackson Sports. The only one that's different is my Twitter, and it's Bailey J Sports. Everything else is Bailey Jackson Sports. So it's super easy to find me. A quick Google search, quick little search in each platform. So yeah, you can find me anywhere on social media, honestly.
Okay. And I know as we've talked and we had the conversation prior to start, and as we talked, I've called you everything from a sports reporter to a journalist, sports content creator. But I like the answer I heard in one of your previous interviews. What are some of the reasons you like to be considered as a sports content creator versus just boxing you into that box of being a journalist?
Yeah, I mean, a huge thing for me is I didn't graduate with a journalism degree. I graduated with a marketing degree, and I think there is a level of respect that you have to give to those people who actually, have those journalism degrees. In my opinion, those are your. I'm not going to say true journalists, because I think anybody can be a journalist with experience and putting an amount of time in, but there are some things that you learn in that classroom setting that you may not learn through experience. For example, how to write APA, like they teach you that, in school, or the proper format for an article, or, maybe the whole vocal inflection and, voice training, all of that. So, I give credit to the people that went to school, earned a degree for that. And I'm not that, like I
Okay.
said, I graduated the marketing degree. I'm not a journalism major. Um, but I still want to be grouped into that professional category, right? I don't do your typical sports reporting, so I don't want to be labeled as that either. And I think sports content creator gives me that fluidity to kind of be whatever I want to be. If I want to lean more into the true reporting side of things, then I can. If I want to lean more into I just make fun sports content, then I can. And then if I want to take a true journalistic approach and maybe write an article for an organization, or do a report on the Indiana Fever, who I've been covering so far this season, then I can, and I'm still a sports content creator at the end of the day. So that's exactly why I go with that as opposed to any other name or title.
That's good. That's good. So we're going to wrap it up with two questions we always ask at the end of every show. And the first one would be, tell a young person, student athlete, and I always say this goes beyond just the student athlete, but the young person, why is it important to have positive people in your circle?
Oh gosh. Negative Nellies will bring you down. And you're a reflection, or yeah, I think that's the same. Is you're a reflection of the people around you, right? And at the end of the day, is you want to be able to look at the people in your circle and see aspects of yourself, in them, and vice versa. And if you have a group of negative people, then you're going to be negative at the end of the day. It's important to surround yourself with positive people, because that in turn makes you positive. I think it's just important to stay, optimistic in general. I consider myself a very optimistic person. I don't know how I go through life without being optimistic. So, I just say those two things specifically. One, just you have to keep your spirits high, and it definitely helps to have those people around you who will encourage you and motivate you, and always have that smile on their face to put that smile on your face. So
That's good. And the last question, who or what is it that inspires you the most in life?
That's a good question. I think professionally, I really like Taylor Rooks. She's like the goal, the ideal person for like me career wise. Like I want to be her so badly. I think she does it really well. And yeah, she's great at what she does. Outside of work, oh gosh, it's a combination of people, honestly. My family, my mom is a huge inspiration. My dad's a huge inspiration. My dad wanted to be a sports reporter when he was younger. So it's kind of cool for me to now be in the position I'm in, and almost fulfill his dreams. So, just he's the reason why I got into sports into the first place. If it wasn't for him being my coach when I was, younger, or taking me to lessons and practice and all of that, then I probably wouldn't be in the position I'm in. So he's definitely a huge inspiration. Like I said, my mom, she's always been super encouraging. And my friends, I have a great group of friends that encourage me and motivate me and inspire me. So, the combination of each one of their greatest strengths and qualities is a major motivating factor for me. So it's a lot of people. It's hard to just pinpoint one. I think that's the beauty of life, is you'll meet so many cool individuals that will just continue to inspire you and make you think and make you grow and learn. So
that's good. Well, Miss Jackson, we appreciate you joining us and just providing us again on another episode with some great information. Thanks again for joining us. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate being on Out and Up, and it's been great talking to you today.
That's good. That's good. So everyone watching, again, we've had another awesome guest where she's just provided us with some great information on what she does today, as well as her career in sports, and just some great advice for the young student athlete. Our goal is just to encourage you to truly be great outside of the sports, even if you accomplish every goal that you have in the sport. Because I always say it on every show, it is good to be great in the sport that you're playing, but it's even better to be great in life. So once again, we thank Ms. Bailey for joining us. And we just challenge you to continue following us as we continue to go out and up. Thank you, and we'll see you next episode.